And welcome back to Meeting of the Minds. Today I'm here with the great Tom Black, the head coach at the University of Georgia, the Bulldogs, where my best friend went to college. Tom, great having you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So we started talking about before about how mental volleyball is and talking about your coaching philosophies. Take it from the top. What are some of the things that make you a great coach and bring the the modest man right here, but some of the things that you bring to the table that you feel have helped your success?
Yeah, I mean, far from being a great coach, I feel like that's an elusive target. You're always chasing that. Yeah, appreciate you saying that. Uh, yeah, well, there was a truly great coach who passed away a few years ago, Carl McGowan. He's had a huge effect, worldwide on the game. And one thing he would hammer into our heads constantly was the mind is the athlete. The rest of our body is just a bunch of tissue and muscles and tendons and cartilage. It doesn't know anything. It's going to perform as well as our brain commands it. We know it's a little bit more complicated than that, but the mind ultimately is the athlete, and our perspective and our ability to learn is everything. In terms of the mindset, I think for us, we want great learners, great competitors, great teammates, and all that is mentality. And beyond that, it's not enough just to learn. We want to learn how to learn. And that mentality is something that can keep us getting better through all the ups and downs.
Yeah, talk about that a little bit about learning how we learn, because each person's different. So there are some commonalities between people because we're all human, right? But at the
Yeah.
same time, there is some individual differences. Talk about some of your experience with that, what you've seen.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the dance, and that's I think the cool thing, it obviously can be overwhelming, but the cool thing about it is it's going to be demanding more and more of you, throughout your life. You're never going to be good enough at learning how to learn, and just like you said, there's for sure commonalities or the subject to be overwhelming. Like we all have a brain and we all have human nature, and we all have perspective. So there's some fundamentals that are going to be common to all of us, and that's why we can help each other, because we're all the same. But the dance comes in with, okay, well, what's my perspective in this moment? What's holding me up? What are the blocks that I have? And we all have them, right? What are my blind spots? Why am I learning this so fast, and why is this slowing me up? And understanding why, then and can I take that lesson and learn better the next time? That's the thing that never stops, but we can get better at it each time. And we can also and this through your own pursuits for sure. You can go from I'm really uncomfortable, this is really hard, to I'm really uncomfortable, this is awesome. I know it, right? Yeah, you can for sure get that, and you can even get to the point where I'm not uncomfortable, this is really frustrating that I'm not uncomfortable, right? And that's probably getting to the highest levels, right? But that's that process of learning how to learn, and where do I need to be at to really be like I'm learning, and then we can go on and on through there.
Yeah, absolutely. Getting comfortable, being uncomfortable, wanting that, getting used to it. And of course, some people are born with it more than others, right? And then there's other people who could develop it over time. What are some of the strategies you've seen that help develop that in players?
Yeah, I think it really doesn't matter if you think someone's born with it or not, because at some point we're all going to get tested. We're all going to get tested. So it really just isn't worth thinking about. In my opinion, it's just more about when we get to that moment where we're tested, right? How are we handling it? If we handle it great, then let's understand how we handle it great and continue to do that. But the reality is we all fail and we all falter. And in those moments, like, what tripped us up? What was going on? And how do I do it better the next time?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure you see this a lot, the whole practice phenomena. They do a lot better in practice. Some athletes will do a lot better in practice than when the lights are on competition. You know, they underperform, they choke. What are some of the things you see, and how do you help them overcome that, or what do you recommend they do?
Yeah, the cool thing about that question you're asking, they probably started asking that question about, 1,500 years ago when the Olympic Games started, and they're going to keep talking about it 1,500 years from now. So it's cool. Like there's some questions out there that you're never going to have fully answered, but if just getting to the fundamental level, just super fundamental, oversimplifying it. People choking games because games are different than practice, right? So no matter what you do in practice, it will never be exactly the same. So the challenge there is, how do I get practice to be as close as possible, right? And there's a physical, mental, and emotional component to that. And there's two things with that. I think that's why a coach is important. I can only do so much as a player. I mean, if I have a really good coach who can guide me through stressful environments and, demand performance, but do it with a level of care in this really intense environment, that's exactly like I'm going to play in a game. The more that I can do that, the more prepared I'm going to get to the game. But we still have really good environments, really good training environments. I still fail, and that failure was really the rep that's going to allow me to be successful the next time I get to it. And one thing we talk about, for volleyball, serving is obviously a real kind of pressure moment that a lot of people feel, especially like a match point serve, or we call it the red zone, like the last 5 points in the game after a timeout. And we've talked to our players. I said I'll just pick anyone in the group, and I'll say, hey, if I put you right now match point in the national championship game, how would you feel? Like right now, this instant? And they'd be like, oh, I'd be like really, really freaking out. And I'm okay. What if I did it tomorrow and the next day and again and again? Like, how would you feel like 3 weeks from now? Fine. Yeah, I'm like, okay, so those are what those game reps are. So we're trying to make practice as much as the game as we can. And that's the coach's job. And it's also the player's job too. There's so many opportunities in practice where are you putting yourself in that game you're about to play, right? And so that's both of our jobs. But it's still going to be a little bit different in the game. But even if we don't do what we want in that game, we can still have the confidence of that rep. And next time I get in there, I'm going to, oh, hey, I felt this before. I've done this before. I know what I want to do now. And I don't know if there's any shortcuts, but I think that's kind of the process.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that's a big thing, making practice like competition and also making competition like practice. Like there's a lot of athletes, when they're practicing, they're taking it serious, but they're more loose, they're more lighthearted. And then they get to a competition, they start taking it real serious. So for them, it's also, of course, you want to take it serious, but not too serious. So it might be implementing some of the strategies in competition that you normally do in practice, whether it's keeping the mood light, joking around with a friend while still staying focused.
Yeah, 100%. And I think as a player, if you're joking around in the practice, that's okay if that's exactly what you're going to do in the game. Right. But if you're doing that because you're not taking it as seriously, that's part of what leads to choking. One real simple example of coaching the Canadian team last summer, we had a real simple quote that just started catching fire. If you were in the Olympics right now, would you do that? And we just started saying that all the time. If you're in the Olympics right now, would you show up at this time or this time? Would you warm up like this or like that? Would you have done this or that in that rep? Would you have reacted this way? And it just became this kind of statement we could apply to anything. But yeah, there's I hope this rep helps me in the game. And then I'm treating this like I'm going to treat it in the game. And when you look at the best of the best, they understand that. They've come to the point where they know that's how it works. And you can just see how they treat practice. It's to the point where it almost puts pressure on the coach because they're taking it so seriously. And so I think that might be the highest level of it.
Yeah, no, that's great stuff. Now, some of the things that we see, some of the big challenges we see with volleyball players, so we're always getting our feedback from the athletes we're working with, and we've seen some of their common mental struggles. I wanted to share the screen and get your feedback on it. So we call the volleyball mindset red flags. Okay. Are they up there?
Yeah.
All right. So what some of your feedback, some of your thoughts on this? Anything that you see? What do you think?
This is good stuff. You want me to go one at a time or all?
Well, just your just impressions on this. You don't have to go through all of them one at a time.
Yeah. Oh, I'm just too nervous. These are great. Man, I think, well, my first reaction is, I think this is part of maturing for all of us, but there's no silver bullet to all this stuff. And right. I think it's really easy as a player to be, this happens all the time. If I would just have the Kobe Bryant mindset, I would have hit that ball in, and the reality is there's a process. There's a technical component to why we're doing what we're doing, right? There's this mental, emotional component to it, both in training, and in the moment of the game, and all that stuff takes some time, So I think one thing that I see a lot with players is they want a real quick fix, easy answer to that. And when you go through the film, it's a lot of it is what's the process of being able to make this play when we want it. And I think if we don't respect that process and we're not willing to dive into that process and do the hard work with that, we're just going to keep chasing silver bullets. So I think this is really good stuff. Now for sure, there's also a moment, which is kind of your earlier question, where we have done the work and we are good enough to make that play. And okay, well, what's going on? And almost 9 times out of 10, it goes back to when that happens in practice, what are we doing? And it's just not having the awareness that everything that happens in game happens in practice, and making that link and preparing ourselves a little better for the next time.
Yeah, definitely. I think also sometimes being thinking too much. A lot of times the athletes, even some of the best ones, they're thinking too much about not letting down their teammates, not letting down the coaches, thinking about the people in the stands. One of the things we always talk about is having a predator versus a prey mindset. The predator mindset, their eyes are on the front of their head. They're focusing on what they can control. That prey mindset, eyes on the side of the head, they're comparing themselves to other people, wondering what other people are thinking about them, focusing too much on records, rankings, seedings, predictions. I'm sure you see that all the time.
Yeah, and just kind of going to this theme of, everything happens in practice, it happens in a game. Usually, like when we've had those kind of conversations, like I'm worried about this, I'm worried about that. I'll usually ask, okay, well, how much time of the week are you worried about that? Like, well, a lot. Okay, I'm talking about your approach, and you're talking about this, that, and the other thing. Like when are we going to start focusing on this? And then when you get to that, now if we focus on this and we get better at this, all these things that you're worried about, are they going to get better or worse? Oh, well, they're going to get a lot better. Like, okay, so like, we're always trying to get to that controllable behavior that we end up like, we're worried about a lot of stuff, but while we're worried about the stuff, this is going unresolved and it's controllable. And as we start attacking that stuff, this stuff's going to quiet down. So let's get over here, and then obviously we're going to have way more fun. We're going to enjoy the game. And I think that's something we bring up a lot too, is as we're worried about all this stuff, how much enjoyment are we having? Is your passion going up or down? Or it's going down, it's terrible, so it helps a lot of things.
Definitely. How frequently are you checking in with them with this kind of stuff? Like how you said, seeing if they're enjoying it, seeing if they're focusing on the controllables. I know you have your eye on it all the time, but is there
Yeah.
any time you're setting aside just for that?
Well, I think it's something I'm trying to get better at all the time. Like I said, we have those three values we want to be about. We want to be great learners, great competitors, great teammates. So I'm trying to see every interaction we can to strengthen those three things, And so we'll meet with them once a week, no matter what. And then if I see a red flag, I'll meet with them right there. But we're trying to weave it into those three things. Yeah.
That's awesome. So much great information. We wrapped up into a short amount of time. That's great.
Cool.
Where can we where can we send people? How do we get more people your way?
Yeah, I
Well,
mean, I'm on Twitter, TBlackVB, if anyone wants to go on there. And then obviously Georgia Volleyball is on all the social media channels too. So yeah, we're pretty accessible.
awesome. Thanks a lot, Coach. I really appreciate all you do, and I appreciate your time today.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Take care.
Take care.